You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the big show in the sky. We certainly appreciate it. On the interwebs in the sky, it just rotates through those pneumatic tubes that process the .coms in the sky. So welcome to the show. Holy moly, folks. We have just some amazing guests this week. I think we have like 3 shows a day booked this week. I don't know how that happened because normally we only do 2. We have like 3 shows a day, and we have people that are so smart on this show that are clearly not me. As always, we have the most amazing guests. So we'll be getting to that in a second. But in the meantime, as always, the plugs, the guilt, the shaming, please refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Google.com or YouTube.com/Chris Voss. You can Google it too if you want. I mean, it's a free country. And you can do that in other countries that aren't free too, I think. It's if you can get access to the Google. I don't know. That's a whole different political statement. Anyway, go to LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Goodreads.com/Chris Voss, and all those places on the internet where you can find us, as always. Today we have an amazing gentleman on the show. He's the author of the new book, Inside the Liberal Arts: Critical Thinking and Citizenship. Jeffrey Scheuer is on the show with us today, and he's going to be talking to us about his amazing new book and some of the insights and things that we're going to learn about it. He is the acclaimed author and freelance writer. He is an information ecosystem expert, top press professional, and elite educators have sought his insight on media, politics, and most recently, higher education. He's on a mission from God. No, I don't know if it's a mission from God. I just like that line from Blues Brothers. He's on a mission to illuminate for society what it means to think critically and live as an educated citizen in a thriving democracy. His new book is the only book to systematically relate the liberal arts to thinking rationally and critically. He takes liberal arts educators, students, and media and consumers through an exploration of the role of higher education in democracy. Welcome to the show, Jeffrey. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks. Great to be here.
There you go. We threw a lot of energy in the show. Did I get your last name pronounced correctly?
Scheuer.
Jeffrey Scheuer is on the show with us today. Jeffrey, give us the .coms wherever you want people to find you on the interwebs, please.
JeffreyScheuer.com. Inside the liberalarts.com, and you can buy the book at romanandlittlefield.com.
There you go. And so give us an idea, a 30-foot overview of the book and what goes inside of it.
Okay, Chris. The book started as an exploration of critical thinking and the liberal arts because I kept hearing people say the liberal arts are for critical thinking. No one explained what that meant or how they are connected. And I decided I'd try to figure it out, and I hope I succeeded. So Inside the Liberal Arts is an examination of the core, the history, and the conceptual foundations of liberal learning. And at the same time, because it turns out they're really one and the same enterprise, it's an exploration of critical thinking. The third part is why critical thinking and the liberal arts are crucial to democracy.
There you go. All right. I think we hit an internet bump there. Can you feed that to me again? I know we hit an internet bump and we lost some of that audio.
Sure. What I was saying was I started the book exploring the idea that critical thinking and the liberal arts are related because it's something people in the academic world, which I'm not really in, but peering into from the outside, like to say. And I wanted to know what they meant. They never explain or define those terms. Mm-hmm. So I decided to take a deep dive into what critical thinking is and what the liberal arts are. And it turns out they're deeply interwoven ideas. rationality, going back to the Greek philosophers, is really the core of the whole enterprise, regardless of what discipline you're in. And then the other part, after looking at the history and conceptual structure of liberal learning and what critical thinking is all about, I explore why liberal arts are so important to democracy.
There you go. There you go. So let's get into it. What are the liberal arts for people that might confuse it with politics or something of that nature?
Sure. The easiest way to define the liberal arts is they're not vocational education. They're not STEM education. Mm-hmm. They're not pre-professional education. They're not anything really skill-based except for mental skills, which are very important there. So they include the humanities, the social sciences, and the natural sciences as a sort of integrated whole.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And so you wrote the book, and inside of it, we talked before the show about how my one of my Wall Street friends, who was a stockbroker on Wall Street and the CEO of companies later, he told me that him majoring in liberal arts was one of the key things to helping him in his business career. And he didn't think that that would ever translate. And so give us a deeper dive into liberal arts and what we learn from that and how that applies to life and critical thinking.
Yeah, well, most obviously, we learn to be more critical thinkers, which is reasoning according to rules and guidelines and acting on reasons. But I think it's no accident that business executives are looking for liberal arts grads, as are people in specialized schools like military academies and culinary institutes. It's getting more popular because of its success in those areas, even as it's being attacked across America. And it's also spreading across Europe and the world on the American model.
There you go. There you go.
They're finding something in it. And what they're finding is that it produces balanced citizens.
Is that the problem why we have so many people running around with Dunning-Kruger's disease, where, they think they know everything and everyone's a professional in something, every week on Facebook, whatever the newest thing is, suddenly everyone's a professional in it. Yeah. Something happens.
We have experts as well as pseudo experts, and I'm not sure that's a uniquely STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, or non-liberal arts phenomenon. Mm-hmm. I think you can have that disease as a liberal arts grad, but maybe you're a little more immune to it if you have a good, sound background in critical thinking. Hopefully.
There you go. And I've been studying a lot of Stoicism lately over the last few years, and Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius and a lot of philosophers too. I mean, there's a reason these people resonate with us from ancient Greece, et cetera, Aristotle, et cetera, all that. It is because they put their finger on the pulse of human nature and behavior and dealing with the world, and I think a lot of liberal arts incorporate some of that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I argue in the book that both historically and logically, the liberal arts come out of Greek philosophy, which invented rational thought, really, in the West, at least in the West. And it was more Plato than anyone else who invented it, and Aristotle who refined it. And that project has been ongoing ever since, and it's called philosophy, but it has generated questions that have created new disciplines all along the way, from political science to linguistics to economics, you name it. They're all, or most of them at least, somewhat offshoots of philosophy.
There you go. There you go. Critical thinking is so important. Being able to evaluate stuff, being able to think. When I sent my two nephews off to when they graduated high school, my nephew and my niece, I wrote to them and I tried to espouse in a letter to them things that were important in life. Collecting stories, enjoy the journey, not the destination. Take time to look around. Things that I wish someone would told me when I was graduating high school. And one of the important things I told them was, there are three things in life. There's the things you know. There's things you don't know. And one of the most important things you need to pay attention to are the things you don't know. And sometimes those are the arrows that are going to come at you that you don't see coming because you aren't aware of them. And when it also comes to learning and critical thinking too, and to me that's so important in studying these things, because we say on the show a million times, we have so many historians that come on the show too, that we talk about the one thing man can learn from his history is that man never learns from his history, and this is why we go round and around. In fact, sometimes the whole thing where we try and erase our history, one of the problems with that is we need to learn from it instead of erase it. So critical thinking is just so important, and in how that deals with it. In the context of what's going on in college, is one of the disturbing things I see in colleges now, is this attack of being able to debate ideas and talk about ideas.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff that comes from the political right on it. I'm a moderate Democrat, and I can see both sides of the extremes of our parties that fight against this stuff. The book banning, the you name it. If somebody has an opinion that hurts your feelings, you're going to shout it down instead of trying to debate it. And college used to be these great bastions of debating and ideas, and some of my favorite things of watching great debates, whether it was Christopher Hitchens in debate measures, or there's the famous Baldwin,
William F. Buckley.
Yeah, that's such a great thing. But a lot of those debates used to have that. Now, there's you see recent the news where people can't, even if they have a different opinion, can't get up and free speech those opinions without being shouted down.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's sad. It's wrong. It has to change. It's difficult to change because it's an amorphous cultural environment that we're talking about. But people like the dean of Stanford Law School have to stand up for free speech, as she did when her students tried to shout it down a visiting speaker they didn't like. Absolutely, there has to be debate, respectful debate in universities. They are laboratories of democracies.
Yeah.
Law schools above all. I just want to go back to something you said earlier, Chris, about your advice to your nephews and nieces. It was great, wise stuff.
They probably threw it away, but that's what you do when you're a teenager.
Maybe after reading it. And I have friends who are going to school now, or about to go to school, and I just tell them, be curious, explore, find what you love, because what you love is what you'll learn best and what you'll do best. And that's what motivates all real learning.
Yeah, having an open mind.
Having an open mind, which does not mean not having opinions.
Yeah.
You can have your opinions, and I have strong opinions like you, but there has to be respectful debate, or democracy just doesn't work.
Yeah, and opening your mind to so many things. I've been, I'm not using this as I'm just showing in politics how I've moved. It's a good example. That's what I'm trying to say. So I've gone from being a Republican to being a very to far liberal. I didn't really realize how far out I was, and then now I'm a moderate Democrat. There's lots of
I would have kept you out there.
Yeah. I can look at both sides of the political spectrum, because we talk a lot about that on the show. We have authors that written political books. So, I have to kind of take all sides. We have Republicans and Democrats on the show. And so, but with just about any topic, aside from politics, I think people watch me on Facebook. I was talking about this the other day on my Facebook post. I'm like, a lot of you have seen me journal on Facebook, and you've seen my ideas progress in And maybe progress is not the right word. Maybe they digressed. Who knows? I guess someone will be the judge of that. But how my stuff evolves and how I evolve. And to me, God, if I was the same person I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I can't imagine ever having that life. And so being able to critically think and do philosophy and understand stuff. I mean, there's always so much insight. And going back to it, I keep a copy of Marcus Aurelius's book right here next to my desk.
Wonderful. The Meditations.
Wonderful book. It took me 50 years to get around to them, but I probably should have read them sooner so I can oh, here it is. It's right here on top of my speaker. Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. So I was wondering where it went. But so what are some other things that people can do and how can people learn liberal arts better? I mean, of course, buying your book, I guess, is an important part of it.
That would be a huge leg up for those who read it. And I say that with at least some modesty because the book is somehow smarter than I am. But I want to go back to what you were saying about free speech because there's really two opposite problems that I see as creating this situation of intolerance. One is, yes, we have a generation of college students who are much more vulnerable, much more given to slights and triggers, and they have to grow up. That's just not how society works, and they're not being prepared for society by being so sensitive that they can't take some challenge and some controversy and some dispute. That's one problem. And the other problem is Trumpism, because it has shrunk the spectrum of dignified debate, because so many of the Republicans have gone over to the far side, to the lies and the conspiracy theories, that it's very hard to debate them. It's very hard to debate them. So I think those are the two problems we need to overcome. I don't have an easy solution or silver bullet, but
go ahead.
Critical thinking is part of it, certainly.
It most definitely is. It's almost like
evolving as you have evolved. I have not evolved as you have. I've gotten older, but I wouldn't say my opinions have changed that much. I admire you that you're open to that.
It kind of comes from a survival sense and a business sense. On one hand, I was damned, and on the other hand, I was blessed. And so is there a dichotomy sort of thing, analogy for that? But I grew up in a cult, and I grew up with a very heavy religion that was trying to program me into being a bot for them very harshly. And I asked a lot of questions. For some reason, I was born with a brain that went, no, I don't think so. I'm not doing your thing. You got to explain it to me before I get it. And it set me on this course in life where I constantly ask why people do things. Why do you believe in things? Why do you believe that? It makes my show great because I'm curious about people. Why do you live the life you did? Why did you choose to go down a pathway? To me, life is these beautiful forests of pathways where there's multiple forks in the road, and you choose to go left or right or whatever the variation is, and you go down that road, and it's all about the journey and not the destination. So it's curious to me, and I have an innate curiosity for people as to why they do what they do and how they do what they do. And I don't think I have the best life. I don't think maybe I chose the best things. I think people that tell me that they have no regrets are foolish. But what do I know? Maybe I'm wrong. And I consider that as well. But so I've always kind of had this thing where I'm always like, what the fuck is going on? And why are we doing this way? Yeah. And it's helped me in business, being an entrepreneur, because I can look at business models and I can go, why did they do it this way? And how could this be done better? And how can this be innovated? And so it's helped me in a lot of different ways, even though I'm still scarred from childhood. But that's another matter for my psychiatrist to talk to later today.
Well, curiosity is the driving thing. If you don't have that, you have a problem. But it's all about asking questions, and I think critical thinking learning to think critically, to make distinctions and to make connections and to see generalities and particulars and to go back and forth between them. I think that helps us to formulate better questions. And it doesn't give us answers, but it helps us to see where the good questions lie.
Yeah. And I was lucky in life to have people that validated the way I was thinking. I mean, George Carlin. It's Monday for me today. Sorry. George Carlin, helped save me. I'm probably alive today because of him, because what he talked about with religion, I finally met somebody outside of my cult that spoke reason to me and made me realize that I wasn't alone. There were other people who thought like me. For some reason, I had a natural thinking process to it. Is one of the problems that we have in today's society a laziness of the mind, where people, we all want to be entertained, and one of the problems with social media, especially, I think, in recent years, and I think that's what gave rise to Trump and other things, is that we've kind of become more and more lazy, where we want to be entertained, we want instant entertainment, and I'm guilty. I'll admit to it. I'm guilty of spending 4 hours in a night watching TikTok, going through it, and then suddenly I wake up and the lights are on in the morning.
And I watch movies late at night when I should be reading. But yeah, I wrote a book called The Soundbite Society in 1999, and that it was about television and radio and how they atomize information and how doing that helps the right and hurts the left. And that was before social media completely fractured and fragmented the media landscape, and where and how we get news and how we tell news from non-news. And before me, there was Neil Postman, a great writer and media theorist, who wrote a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death about how television is corrosive. I think Facebook is worse. I think all the menu of options kids have today for social media are just absorbing their time, fragmenting their attention. They're probably learning some mental skills that we don't have. Mm-hmm. They certainly are better at using their devices than folks of my age are. But what is lost? Conversation, reading, core elements of community, of citizenship, of democracy are getting lost there.
There you go. I mean, I've been single all my life, and I've tried getting married a couple times. I just don't have the millions for the divorce, so I'm still saving up for them. And so I have a lot of quiet time in my life. And being a business owner, I mean, I was married to my companies really for most of my life. And so being someone who sits down and contemplates stuff, who tries to innovate companies, and I have a lot of quiet time on my hands, other than when my dogs are back talking me because they're not getting enough treats. And so that's been one of the most important creative times and learning times and pondering my existence times as ever, has been my quiet times. And one thing I've found with my addiction to TikTok and YouTube sometimes I try and fill my quiet moments with that noise. And I've been very aware in the back of my hindbrain that I'm going, what you're doing, Chris. You're just filling your, it's kind of like when people eat bad food, which I've also been guilty of, is eating emotionally, because you're like, I'm bored. What should I do? Oh, fuck it. I'll eat a giant ass burger and then spend half an hour, 3 days trying to process that crap through my system, because I don't know. I had nothing better to do today, I guess. I don't know. And so there's kind of a laziness of the mind. And so lately I've been getting after myself, and I go, knock it off. Take some time just to sit and kind of think. And I did that this weekend. I turned off all my Call of Duty gaming that I normally do and contact that I play with my friends. And I just kind of went through stuff and audited a bunch of things and went, what's everything doing? What's this? I actually found 2 podcasts we hadn't published that people had asked us to hold, and that's always a bad thing. They'd asked us to hold them till the published date, and we never exercised them on the published date. So being able to sit in the quiet, in the stillness, and to not have some of these distractions like you wrote about in your other book. And I'm really curious about that. I'm going to delve into that and probably order it. The Soundbite Society, How Television Helps the Right and Hurts the Left, but also there's probably a whole new second book you can do on that with the Fox News lawsuit. But just being in the stillness of our life.
Yes. And stillness doesn't have to be mindful meditation. There's a whole spectrum of activities. We can't run our minds at warp speed all the time. We can't be reading The Magic Mountain all the time or Ulysses. We need rest, relaxation. But I've found, first, I watch a lot of baseball, which I find very stimulating and interesting. It's not, I wouldn't say an education, but it's fun. And I'm thinking all the time when I'm watching. Another thing I do is I do a lot of puzzles, which I love, and like Sudoku, for example, which is really a mental workout, but it's in a very abstract realm of logic. So you're not thinking about the world. You're thinking about solving a logical problem. Although it involves numbers, it's not mathematics. And I do that, and I'm addicted to it. I love it. So there's a lot of different ways to use your mind, to rest your mind, to run your mind at low gear. There's not one formula, obviously, for everyone, and many different speeds at which it can be run or rested.
There you go. And in the title of your book, you talk about citizenship, and in the breadth of the book, you talk about how it can make us better citizens. Give us some more insight into that. How does it make us better citizens?
Well, good question. Citizenship is intimately wound up with liberal arts, and I would argue all education, absolutely all education, is for citizenship. Because what is citizenship? It's everything. It's every context in which there's some give and take between an individual and community, a transaction where there's both give and take. So if you're helping a neighbor, it's citizenship. If you're walking your dog, it's not citizenship. If you're cleaning up your dog, it is after your dog, it is citizenship. There are many ways to do that, and I figured that there are really three main spheres in which this happens: the economic, the cultural, and the civic or political. And the areas of learning outside the liberal arts are mostly geared toward the economic. They make you a better producer, better consumer, etc. But they don't affect the other two realms. And only the liberal arts promote all three of those realms of citizenship. So that's basically my argument for the liberal arts. And it's an argument for democracy, because that's what citizenship is. It's participation. It's involvement. It's speaking. It's voting. It's volunteering. It's everything we do. It's marching. It's everything we do to try to affect society.
There you go. Because if you have we've seen what happens if you have an authoritarian society, and the damage that it does if you go, hey, we're just going to let one guy just take care of everything. We don't need to get involved with that. We'll just trust him. I'm sure he'll be fine. See how that works out.
They do is shut down the press, and the second thing they do is shut down the universities, just like happened in Hungary recently, where they kicked Soros's university out of Budapest, because liberal arts and a free press are the two bulwarks of democracy that authoritarians cannot tolerate.
There you go. I was watching over the weekend. Somehow I tripped into a video on Gaddafi and how he took power, and how initially he was seen as this person that was going to be a revolutionary, like you've seen with Castro and other authoritarians, Stalin. I think that's how he tripped into it. He would sign there was a thing about how he would sign the death certificates that were very Stalinistic, and he would televise them to televise the terror. And of course these weren't valid crimes that people committed. These were sometimes political hits, or sometimes just things for the first person he had killed was a man whose only crime was being guilty of studying abroad in an American university. And as you mentioned before, they go after the people with the critical thinking minds first, and the books, they go after the books first. So if you've seen that in Florida or other places, you should be worried about what's going on right now. The Nazis.
Authoritarian societies don't need citizens.
Yeah.
And Florida is looking like a place that doesn't want citizens.
And it's interesting how people embrace that. We have a lot of great journalists that come on the show too. And I have a huge love and appreciation for journalists. We have a journalist now that's being held prisoner in, I believe, from the Wall Street Journal, being held prisoner in Moscow. We've had people who've written about Khashoggi and the atrocity there. And one of my friends on Facebook was complaining about how, the journalists and the news agencies and the recent coverage of the Trump arrest, is over, and blah blah blah. And I recognized that there was a laziness in their thinking, in their thing. And the problem was there were people jumping onto their Facebook feed going, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Hey, whoa. And as nicely as I could possibly put it, the problem that you're espousing is you want people to turn off their brains and not think. And you want them to be lazy because, oh my God, it's too much work to think about this and everything else you have to think about. You need to respect the Fourth Estate and the importance of this and why this moment is seminal in history. This isn't just an enforcement of a law in New York. This is a signaling around the world of democracy, a renewal of democracy. The fact that
not just New York, it's going to be Georgia, it's going to be DC.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't let the media totally off the hook, Chris. Because, it's a minor quibble compared to the point you're making, but it's challenging for the media to cover abstract and procedural things like a trial, like an arraignment, and when they cover Trump's motorcade door to door from Mar-a-Lago to the Palm Beach airport, and all you're seeing is cars going down a highway. That's not very newsworthy. They have to find a better way to illustrate the story than boring you to death with stuff like that.
Yeah, there is I would agree with you. There's a thing, perfection to it. And maybe they need to have more scholars on that talk about the importance of what it is. I mean, they try to, but I mean, I've had some constitutional scholars, attorneys, and professors on the show, and understanding the relevance of how powerful that is. I mean, when people see democracy, democracy was really thrown under the ropes under that administration, and we came within a few people standing between him and authoritarianism. If you listen to the shows and the authors that we've had on, General Milley stated at Biden's inauguration that we barely landed the plane, as he said it. And people don't realize how fragile. You mentioned Hungary, how quickly and easily that fell to authoritarianism over a few months of COVID, and and once you lose it, it's really hard to get it back, if not impossible. And the atrocities you have to go through. I was watching the Gaddafi, his whole arc of going through his political career and how Libyans woke up one day and went, "Holy shit, we've got a monster." You look at what was going on in Russia, where, the Russians for so many years were willing to sleep with Putin and go, well, he's not the greatest dude. And we lost some democracy and freedom, but hey, we got jobs and some money here and we can buy some cars. We'll sell out. Right. Well, eventually it always goes bad, which it always does with the authoritarians. It's just a matter of time.
It's doing now.
Yeah, it's just doing now. But the renewal of what we've done in showing that no man's above the law, and showing the Madisonian thinking, or whatever you want to call it, Jacksonian, or the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution being able to say that no man is the law above the law, that no man is king, that everyone has to follow the rules, and the precedents that it sets for a president in the future, that they better damn think about what they're up to a whole lot more, is important. And authoritarians like China and Russia and Iran, all those people right now are going, damn it, democracy renewed itself. And that's the beauty of it.
We're starting to. We have a long way to go, but Alvin Bragg's prosecution in New York is just the tip of the iceberg, as you know. There's a lot more coming down the road for Trump.
Yep.
It's going to dwarf what this case does.
Yeah. I think the Justice Department will go through from Jack Smith's thing. But the important part of this discussion is the citizenship of it.
Yeah.
The people need to be active in it.
Yeah. You mentioned more scholars on the air. And to me, that's just also the tip of an iceberg, because I think we need more scholars doing journalism, more journalists doing serious scholarship. We need to break down some of the barriers there between learning and teaching institutions, which both the media and the university are. News is just adult education. It's all for citizenship. So there could be a lot more cooperation and less division between those spheres of society.
Yeah. And it's amazing how many people don't do critical thinking on stuff. Like I'll have people that will say something to me in passing or a political comment. I mean, where did you see that? And they're like, oh, I saw it on a meme on Facebook or TikTok. I'm like, wait, you're basing your whole political decisions or whatever you're processing of the news through a meme you saw on Facebook.
Yeah.
And the laziness is just what kind of shocks and amazes me. But, I may have been guilty of some of that.
It has to be trained out of you at some point. You have to be disciplined in some institutional setting to get, to demand truth and verification of facts.
Yep. So there you go. Anything more we want to tease out in your book to get people ordered, Jeffrey, before we go?
Oh, thanks, Chris. Just that it's a wide-ranging short book. It's a little challenging in parts, but it will pay off because I think it'll make people appreciate more what liberal learning is and why it's important. I think it'd be great for students, graduate students, for educators, and thoughtful, curious people like yourself.
There you go.
And we'll see. I'm excited.
There you go. I like your book, The Soundbite Society. I'm going to check that out and probably order it. I want, you might need to update that thing for social media. The TikTok Bite Society.
I've been told to do that, and I always say I'm waiting for a younger person to come along and update it for me.
There you go. The Instagram TikTok Society. It's
immersed in social media, which I shrink from.
I can't blame you, though. I mean, when it really comes down to it, but it is, it's so addictive. And I think a lot of the crises we're seeing in our life are coming from social media. I didn't grow up, but I came of age in social media when it was, the Wild West, when Twitter started and everything else. And, you saw the Arab Spring and different things, and everybody was like, Kumbaya, it's the new, it's the thing that will save the world and bring us all together as a humanity. And I'm probably guilty of saying that. And a lot of us didn't understand that sometimes with these sort of technologies or new things that, there's a Pandora's box element to them where there's the good and the evil side of both.
We saw that in China in 1989 at Tiananmen Square. We thought there was going to be a big revolution, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But people want democracy everywhere. They want it, whether the government likes it or not. And
there will always be people in power to stay in power, and by whatever means necessary. And I think it was. I forget the journalist who said that to me, but they will fight to stay in power, and they will fight to cover up their misdeeds so they can regain power. And that's why it's so important for people to educate themselves and be smart. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for coming on the show. Let's get your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
Thank you, Chris. It's jeffreyscheuer.com or insidetheliberal.arts.com, Roman and Littlefield. That's ROWMAN and Littlefield.com.
There you go. Inside the Liberal Arts, Critical Thinking and Citizenship, wherever fine books are sold. Order up today, folks. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. As always, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Guilt them into subscribing to the show. No, don't do that. We're just being funny. You don't have to guilt them, but you can prod them a little bit. Tell them to go to youtube.com/Chris Voss, goodreads.com/Chris Voss, and linkedin.com/Chris Voss, which seems to be the smartest internet network these days. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. And thanks, Jeffrey. I'll get that